go.
No. One second. Yeah, we'll let you know when they're zooming up.
So we're not good yet?
Don't get nervous. I have 12 people watching now.
Oh, it's more people than I've had watch me in a while.
That's more than you feel before the direction.
Oh, okay, now you're up.
All right. I want to say good afternoon to the few people so far that we have here today, and to what it sounds like we have more viewers online. Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. We're here to talk today about the College Avenue Reconstruction project that'll be going on very shortly this spring and into the summer. I want to introduce a few people that are here with us today that'll be involved with this project. My name is Eric Thorne. I'm a project engineer with the City of Holland Transportation Services, and with us is Mark Gibson. He is with BPW Water and Wastewater Services. Tammy Glover works in my office as well. She'll be perusing the comment boxes on YouTube. So if you have comments, questions from YouTube, feel free to submit them there. We will get to them at some point during our presentation today. Try to answer everybody's questions, any concerns we have today in the audience or online. And we also have today with us from Holland Engineering, our inspector that will be out here, John Boesfield. He will be the day-to-day inspector working with the contractor on the job. Mark and I are more of the office type, design, also available for contact, for questions. Want to just dive into it here. What we'll do today is we'll give a presentation. I have a PowerPoint prepared here. It'll go over some major points of the project, a lot of typical kind of FAQ type information. Mark will do the same also. Primarily I'll talk mostly about road, surface, storm sewer type stuff. Mark will talk about water main services, things more of that nature, BPW related. And so let's just dive into it here. After that, we will do questions after we give a presentation, and if you need one-on-one time, I have a plan set. We can sit down and we can discuss that as well. So basically what our project is here is it's College Avenue. You can see in the PowerPoint here, it's from 24th Street up to 14th Street, which is about a 3,400 foot stretch, about 0.6 of a mile. Residential roadway, 25, 30 mile an hour speed limit. About a 31 foot long wide cross section. Hasn't been touched in quite a few years. It's a very tired road. Maybe 20 years, give or take, since the last time it's been overlaid. And the last time it was overlaid, the gutter pan was overlaid along with it. And the storm sewer, the storm infrastructure on this road is older storm infrastructure. It's a lot of clay tile, 8-inch, 10-inch, non-reinforced concrete type pipe. It's old stuff. We're going to upgrade it with this project to a lot greater of extent so that it can handle a lot more water and it'll last a lot longer than so far what it has. So again, my name is Eric Thorne, and I'm a project engineer with the City of Holland. A lot of things to consider with this project include the project schedule. We're opening bids tomorrow on this project. It's already been bidded. Contractors have it in their hands. We will open those tomorrow, pray for low bids, and hopefully a couple weeks, 3 weeks after that, we will hopefully by mid to late April get the project rolling. The project will start, and I'll talk about it more in a minute. It'll go from the north side, 14th Street, south towards 24th Street. It'll be phased in 2 different phases, and I'll get to that in a minute. Trash pickup during work, we typically implore you to label your trash can with your address so that the contractor, if the road's torn up and the contractor needs to pick up your trash can and move it somewhere else for the trash service to handle, that they can put it back in the right spot. We ask you to label it. You don't have to go move it anywhere separate, anywhere different. You just put it to the end of your driveway, and the contractor will handle that. And the way I understand, it's I believe north of 18th Street, trash pickup day is Monday, south of 18th is Tuesday. And we will coordinate that with the contractor. And then mail delivery, I believe it's all on foot on College, so that should go uninterrupted. And then tree removals and replacements, we have had, Bartlett has, it's a professional tree service. They've gone through and they've looked at every tree adjacent to College Avenue, and they've assessed, whether they're in good condition, fair condition, bad condition, they need to come out, they don't need to come out. I have a whole spreadsheet of ages and diameters and the whole 9 yards, and so the only trees that are coming out, if any, as of right now, are trees that are essentially dead or dying. They've all been assessed, again, by this professional. And they're coming out because that's their condition. Most of them, except for maybe one or two that are also dead or dying, aren't coming out because we want them to come out or we need them to. They're only going out because they are in very bad condition. So for our phasing here, as I mentioned a minute ago, it'll be completed in 2 phases. The first phase will be from 14th Street down to 19th Street. Now, it's important to note, as part of the work we're doing on College Avenue here, we are not doing anything inside 16th Street. So 16th Street will flow just like it should any other time. It will never be closed off. This is actually, the phase 1 will be split into 2 phases. It'll be north of 16th and south of 16th. And this should be done, it's going to start, I know if you're familiar at all with 10th Street, it's going to start before 10th Street construction starts. And during the first part of 10th Street construction, it's my understanding that College Avenue intersection at 10th Street will be open anyway. So hopefully this has minimal impact with that project. That is the intention, and I think that is the intention of starting at 14th Street, is to get out of the way of that project as soon as possible. And so for the second phase, we go down, first phase ends at 19th Street. There is like a half block, 19th north to 18th and 19th south to 20th Street. That was reconstructed a few years ago, and that will not be touched with this project. So 19th Street, you'll be able to flow through on 19th Street. It will not be closed. And then phase 2, like phase 1, will be done in 2 parts. One that goes down to 22nd Street, and the second part that goes 22nd to 24th Street. Because it's getting a little too detailed for this, but at some point, 24th Street, there is work inside 24th Street from College to State Avenue, that little segment. And so 24th Street will be closed, and during that time, traffic will be detoured to 22nd. When there's work in 22nd, traffic will be detoured to 24th. And so the scope of this project, I think I've touched on it a little bit. It's a full asphalt road reconstruction. You're going to essentially get the same profile cross-section that you have now, about 31 feet wide. But that means the whole road's coming out. The grade, the sub-base is coming out. They're getting all new aggregate base. New curb and gutter. Like I said, the curb and gutter that's there now has been overlaid with asphalt. So that's going to be poured, all new brand new curb and gutter. New drive approaches. So the public side drive approaches, from the sidewalk to sidewalk, adjacent to the road, are all going to get ripped out and replaced. Storm sewer wholesale is going to get redone. There are some spots like around 19th Street that were redone a few years ago that will be tied into with this. 16th Street will be tied into because we won't be doing anything inside 16th Street, and then we're tying into up by 14th Street. That's all newer reconstruction from the last several years. We'll be tying into that. As part of this, we'll also be doing the sidewalk ramp modernization. Basically, a lot of the sidewalk ramps out there are decades old. They don't conform to the current ADA standards. Current ADA standards are where you get a flat landing for a wheelchair. You get the little ADA, the detectable warning plate, domes. So all the ones that aren't compliant, which I don't think, outside of 19th Street and 16th Street, there aren't any compliant ones out there right now, so those all get redone. Water main's getting redone, and with the water main comes the water services nowadays, and Mark will talk more about that in a few minutes. And so I'll run through real quick here, not in a lot of detail, just kind of 20,000 foot view of really what the plans look like, because you can't, unless you're maybe viewing online, you can't see too well. But the main concept is right now on I want to say the west side, it is the west side of the road, is the storm sewer, and it's a lot of bits and pieces of clay tile, non-reinforced concrete, storm that runs under a lot of trees, current driveways. It's old stuff. It's all been videoed. You may have noticed we ran a survey on this job probably late last fall. Treesing was out there. They surveyed everything. We've had, I think, plumbers out there. They videoed our storm sewer. Our own guys have videoed our storm sewer. And so that storm sewer that's on the west side of the road, it's all coming out, and we're all putting in centerline main, 18-inch. So a lot of the stuff's getting upgraded from 8-inch storm to 18-inch storm, which is quite an upgrade. Tearing out all the storm structures, they're all going in new precast concrete storm structures. A lot of these that are out there right now, or some of these that are out there now, are actually brick structures. It's all old material. It's falling apart. They've had patches over the years. And really, I'm just trying to get you a flavor of what's going on out here with some of these slides here, the plans. Like I said, all driveways. You're getting storm sewer, main line. If you look like on 23rd, might be easier to look over here. A lot of this stuff, it's going to tie into, so you have right here is like your main line storm, and it's going to tie into some of these side streets like right here. And this one's not as prevalent, but where we're leaving like 22nd Street here, we're leaving a stub for future expansion. So if we do a similar type project on 22nd Street in the future, you won't be stuck with what looks like an 8-inch clay tile storm right here. We'll replace it with either an 18-inch or a 12-inch reinforced concrete pipe. So part of the project's not just improving College Avenue, it's allowing for the improvement on future roads too and future projects. And this is just going up the road towards the north. We're leaving stubs again, 21st Street on either side. And under each driveway, this will be a point I emphasize later, we're putting PVC sleeves. So if you have sump pumps in the future, sprinkling lines that need to get under concrete driveways, you're not tearing up your concrete driveway to put those in. That's the goal with putting those under there. So if you need to put your sump pump line through there, all sump pump lines need to be connected to the back of a storm structure. They can't do what we call as a blind tap. They can't just penetrate straight into the storm sewer. They have to go into an access point, which is a storm structure. And the reason we do that is for maintenance. If there's ever an issue with your line, we want to be able to put a camera in it. We want you to be able to access it, to be able to fix it. It's much easier that way. It's better. It's going to do less damage to our own system if it does need repair in the future. So every driveway we put in, a lot of sidewalk ramps, they're going to have these PVC pipes for sprinkling lines or your sump pump. Continuing up here to the north, we're at the park here on the right side, or on the bottom of your screen. More of the same, really. Again, not going to get into the minutia. If you do have questions, you want to see something specific, I have a plan set. I'm sitting up here, I can talk to you afterward. It would make, I think, a lot more sense. Right here is where 19th Street is. You can see the limit right here where there's already existing. The storm, it started off at 18 that we're going to put in 18-inch. It goes to 24-inch, I believe, at 22nd Street. By the time you get to here, this existing is a 36-inch that we put in a few years ago. A lot of that water, I think, goes to the west down 19th. And then where our project picks back up again is going to be just north of 19th, south of 20th Street on College. And then it continues north. And then you get to 16th Street. You can see it ties into existing storm up here at 16th Street. We're not going to open up 16th Street at all. 16th Street was done last year as part of a big project. Those sidewalk ramps were all completed at that time. And then we're continuing north here, north of 16th Street, 15th to 14th, and that's the terminus of the job right there at 14th Street. And so the cross-section of the road, I mentioned it a couple times. It's about a 31-foot cross-section. I want to say you're gaining a foot because the current curb and gutter, although it's covered, is a half-foot wider, the gutter pan. The new gutter pan is a 1.5 foot gutter pan versus the old one was a 2 foot. It'll be exposed now, so hopefully it drains water away. It will drain water away better than what we had before. And I mean, it's going to be the same width. You're still going to have the option, I think, on most spots, it's parking on both sides of the road. That's not changing. There's no extra bike lane. It's more or less functionally the same thing that it is now. And so, again, sump pumps I mentioned. If you have a sump pump that you know goes into the storm sewer, then that would be something you should tell us sooner than later. Because like I said, we video the storm sewers, we review those videos, and we try to place on the plans, okay, there's a sump pump, it's got to tie in to a structure right here. But a lot of those, if they're small, if the sewer's in bad shape, it's hard to see in the video, we miss those. And that's something we want to get now. If we do it now, as part of this project, we do the public side, that we cover the cost on that. In the future, if you want to add a sump pump, if you got to fix something, you got to tie something in, that is an owner expense typically to have to plug in your sump pump to a public structure. And it comes with getting a contractor and having a contractor with a right-of-way permit. And it's a lot easier to do it now if you have a sump pump. You have a question?
Yeah, I have someone online who wants to know, do you need to know if they want to do a rain garden in conjunction with the construction?
Rain gardens aren't something we've talked about on this project. And they're kind of new for us to do on any project. I would definitely be something I would encourage to talk with us about.
Okay.
I don't have an answer, I guess. So I guess the first place to be would, talk to us about it, because it's not something we've put out there, is that it's not in the, it's not something we've planned to do as part of this or to partner with it, but it's something that, I think the city's stance on it right now is, I think we're open to it, but I don't know about on this specific project or how we go about handling it. So yes, it's something that reach out to us about specifically. Because I know like on 19th Street, I think it was specifically in the project that, hey, we were doing this, and if you're interested, let us know. This is not the case with this project, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not something that we could.
Those people may have worked with Claire.
Yes, that's for, yeah. And so sprinkling systems, if you have a sprinkling system, I don't know how many there are in college. I think we're kind of fortunate because I think there's fewer of them on this stretch of college than there are on some other projects we've had lately. If you have one, the best thing you can do is tell us, and if you are really good, you can flag it or have your company flag where it is. That's not the norm. A lot of times what ends up happening is we hit sprinkling systems. Maybe even if it's flagged, we hit it. The deal with that is typically, and the way we're taking it on this project is, if you have a sprinkling system and we hit your sprinkling system, we're willing to let your company that's familiar with your system do the work. The thing is, you gotta, ahead of them doing the work, have them contact us, give us an estimate. I'll work with them, and but we need to see the invoice. We need to see the estimate before they do any kind of work or before they invoice us. And if you don't want to go that route with your own sprinkling company, we can always have a company of our own come through and do it. But I would encourage, if you do and you experience issues with your system after we've been through it, you have your own do it. I think that's the best way to do it. And so that concludes more or less what I wanted to say. I might think of some things while you talk for a minute, but I'm going to hand it off to you, and that's it.
That one's the
Left,
pencil?
right. Other way.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Mark Gibson with the Holland Board of Public Works. I'm the project manager for the work we're going to chase down in this section also. Our scope is we're going to pretty much follow along with the city. So where they're tearing up the street and digging, we're going to replace water main. The water main here is vintage original construction. So it was what the city built when they built the neighborhood about 100 years ago. So our map is less interesting. We pretty much tag along, just replacing water main exactly where the city is already tearing up the street. This allows us to share the timeline, share the cost of rebuilding the road, and we get the utilities replaced without having to come back in 5-10 years and give you guys another project to live through. So we continue along right through with everywhere where they're going, through the same streets and intersections, stopping at the same limits that they are, because we replaced water main on the previous projects to the same limits that they rebuilt storm sewer. Some of the things you might see is we do replace the hydrants and the stuff that you do see in the road. They move a little bit because we have to place a new one while the old one's in service. but they generally end up back in about the same spot. So if there's one out at the corner by the stop sign, it might move one way or the other, a few feet, but it'll stay in generally the same area. The fun one that everybody gets to deal with is the water service replacements. In relation to the Flint water crisis, which here in the city, we have not had any of the issues that they've had at Flint. But there was a state law change so that when I replace water main, I now have to replace all water service components that were at some point connected to a lead-containing component. In the city of Holland, that is the old gooseneck tap at the water main. It was a little kind of like lead pewter fitting. That was how they tapped the water main and connected the steel water services to the water main. So I've reached out to all the homeowners and residents already on this project that are candidates for the water service replacement. If you haven't replied to that, please do. This is free of charge per the state law. We use a trenchless technology. We drill in a new water service, and then we have a professional plumber do the work inside your home to connect the plumbing to the new water service. And so this water service replacement is focusing on this area between the house and the road. Normally, before that change in state law, that work was not completed as part of this project. Now it is when this is galvanized steel. Kind of that same thing. This is the focus of that water service replacement work. Project contacts and how to track us down. So every day, John will be on site in a Holland engineering truck. You can go knock on his door, wave at him. I've always found John to be a very nice, approachable guy. And just tell him your complaints, your concerns, questions, and we'll get you answered as best you can. If you can't find John, usually Eric, myself, or another BPW employee will also probably be on site at various times, and feel free to wave us down and tell us what's going on. Feel free to call us, tell us what's going on. We might not know exactly what you're going through, so we don't know unless you tell us. And then we can help you find answers, like where did my trash can go? Well, we picked them up this morning and we have had them get placed at the wrong houses. That's why we ask you to label them, but we track them down, find all that fun stuff. So we don't know if you're having a problem if you don't tell us. That's a good thought. Some things to expect. We tell the contractor that residents with driveways fronting on the job should be able to get in and out of their house every day. So that means you get to leave for work, and then when you come back, I'm going to just do that so that the slide on YouTube doesn't change yet. So when you come back, you can leave to go to work, come back. There will be short times when we are digging immediately in front of your house, and you won't be able to get out of the driveway. The contractors have been told, and it's standard practice, for them to show up, knock on your door and say, hey, we got to start crossing your driveway. If you got to leave for the next 4 hours, move a car, and you can park around the corner and get to it and leave. Those are the moments when house access won't happen. And it should be fairly limited because with only 2 major utilities, that means we just got to dig down through the street twice in this project. Some other expectations, so house access, trash, water shutoffs. We will have to shut off the water at various times to tie new main in, to shut old main off. When it's a block-wide, long-term shutdown, I say long-term, few hours, while we work on the water main, we coordinate that with door hangers. And it's a notice that's put on your front door, and it will have a time when we start and a time when we expect to finish. And we try to time that for after breakfast or after lunch. So the contractor gets 2 shots during the day to shut down the water main. So you guys can get up, get ready for the day, get your breakfast, and then we'll shut it down like 8 or 9 a.m. and try to get it back on before lunch, and then they get another shot in the afternoon that we shut it down like 1 o'clock and try to get it back on before dinner. So you'll be notified on your door. That's when we gotta shut down a whole block. When we do that, you might sometimes get air trapped in the main because we shut off the main, drain it, work on it, all that fun stuff. Run your cold water in your bathtub for a minute or two to flush all that out, so that those air bubbles and such aren't coming through your hot water system. When we work on your individual water service, that's the other time you'll see some service interruptions. That's much more immediate. The contractor will be contacting you directly to access your home, to get the work done. You know, if they gotta tap the water main and pull your water service over, they'll knock on the door and be like, hey, 15 minutes, we gotta disconnect you from the old water main and connect you to the new one. You won't necessarily get the notice on the door for that work, but you should be, the contractor should be talking to you directly. Go right ahead.
Is there any way that, the tenant occupying can have a day in advance, even a notice in their mailbox?
So the,
then this way, you are, if you have plans,
yeah.
you might have.
Yeah,
things
so,
there.
so all of the notifications that the talking to with the residents, we expect a 24-hour advance notice for most of everything that's going on. So water shutdowns, we get those out the day before, so people know tomorrow this is gonna happen. We expect the contractor, sometimes they do it at the end of the night, you know, at the end of the day, they'll walk down for the next 4, 5, 6 houses and say, okay, we're down at the end of the block, we're coming your way as storm sewer, tomorrow we're gonna be crossing in front of your house. It's a little vague, but they do try to let people know that tomorrow is gonna be the painful day. You know, but before that, we're down the street and, you know, you don't see us. So the most notifications that the residents get are at least 24 hours in advance.
Yeah, I have a question online from 398 College Avenue.
Yes.
They want to know if there's a list of recommended city-certified plumbers to estimate and replace sewer connections. Are you replacing sanitary laterals?
At this, so we didn't touch on this. At this point in the project, we're not replacing laterals
Okay.
in the right-of-way. City neighborhood services are the keepers of licensed plumbers. So
Okay.
if they're interested in that, I did include some information in the mailers for the water service replacements. Call City Neighborhood Services and talk to them.
So are you replacing water laterals?
We're replacing the water connections,
Sanitary.
but not for the sewer.
And then another quick comment. Yeah, I know you told them to label their trash cans.
Mm-hmm.
I believe I got a notice that we're gonna be getting, recycle containers next month. So you may have to label that as well.
Oh, I had a question about the labeling. What kind of labeling?
What kind of labeling? A piece of duct tape works best because it's waterproof, but a piece of tape with the house number and magic marker. If you want to write the numbers in tape, if you want to paint it, I don't know if you can really paint them, but tape and a magic marker. I only need it to last a few months while we're there. We had a great day when people didn't really label their trash cans, and the trash can came, we moved them and found out that one person did not put out their trash can, and we spent the rest of the day trying to figure out where we put the other one. Yes,
Just expand on the sewer, the lateral sewer connection.
yes. So,
Neighborhood services, you mentioned, has a contact us, so we would contact them, and if we hire somebody to replace that while you're out there, what kind of coordination or communication do you have to do?
so if you do want to do work on your sanitary lateral, the homeowner would call City Neighborhood Services and get the list of contractors that will do that. And actually, if they come in a little bit ahead of us or after we try to also work with them while we're there on site, because we'll replace sidewalk and curb and pavement in the road on our cost if we can get it done in the project. Try to help help the homeowner out that way. So the process would be they get with City Neighborhood Services, call the contractors, get some quotes. And then it's fine once you kind of pick one, say, hey, call the project staff, have them call me, have them call Eric, and say, you got to coordinate with these guys too. And we'll pick it up from there and help get it along.
Okay, so you'll work with them in terms of the schedule when it's best for them to be out there?
Yes, and help, and explain what's going on too. That reminds me, some things you guys may see coming at you is, as we pick the contractor and get them going, they're gonna do a few things. They're gonna televise all the laterals on the sanitary so we can locate them for sure, because the only way to really locate them for mistig is to televise them. So that will look like a bunch of green paint, you'll see stakes, and if you can read survey stakes, a lot of fun information, but you'll see those pop up, that is from us. And then you'll also see some things coming along the way, all the mistig flags. Please don't take them out. I understand it's a bit of a mess. Also, you might see John putting out survey stakes to locate new stuff. And sometimes those do creep on beyond sidewalk. And he's allowed to legally do that. It's called the surveyor's law. He can place some survey stakes around the sidewalk and such, but please don't disturb those because those are critical for us figuring out where all the new stuff goes. Because amazingly, once you tear up the road, you kind of lose all reference point to where everything was at. So you'll see those things coming down the pipeline. Very normal. Once again, though, if you're seeing problems, let us know. We'll try to make sure it all comes together well. And
We heard some of the little flags sticking out of our yard, and we noticed that some of them are like pulled out by.
Yeah. So I think the mistig law is those flags are only good for 30 days. And with the phasing of the project, a lot of that, you'll see them again. The contractor will call it in, we'll come back out right before he starts digging holes. So we'll refresh them, but you'll probably see them come through 2-3 times and put those flags in. And some of that is just that kind of everybody's trying to comply and label everything and show where it's all at. And then, we still got to do everything according to all the little details. Are there any more questions from online?
No, and my chat seems to have gotten disconnected, so let me check on that.
Okay. So at this point, I would say the online presentation has ended. We will continue to monitor the YouTube chat. So if anybody didn't make it here for online as one was live or for the city council, call in a question, email a question, throw it on YouTube chat. We'll watch that for a little more longer until we kind of figure it's gotten stale. So that's everything for the big picture talk. And now, with a few attendees that braved the public, we can sit down and review anything for specific properties with you.
I've noticed in some of the properties that have been worked on, there's this big old yellow pump or tube that sticks out of the ground. Is that something that might be anticipated in your construction?
Big yellow pump sticking out of the ground.
They look so awkward coming out of the ground, and,
I wonder if it is the gas marker.
okay, so that has
Is
nothing to
it
do
something
with.
part of active construction, or is it just always there?
Goodness, I wish I had taken down the street where I've seen it, but if you don't, or aren't aware, then it's probably not a
Let's do this.
concern.
If you see it coming up, let us know. And we'll answer the question. Because I got 2 or 3 ideas of what I think you're talking about, but I want to be sure. I think you might also talk about the gas relief valves.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So we're not planning on changing a whole lot.
The online people want your mic by your mouth.
Okay.
And they have mic'd me, so I have someone who asked the question, is the road being widened, A?
Okay.
And if it's being widened, will the sidewalks move or the footprint be the same?
So there are no plans to change road alignment, curb alignment, or sidewalk alignment. We are rebuilding as is, but to new standards. So some of the dimensions may change of the curb, but the street will be technically the same width, curb will be the same location, but just the shape of it may change as we build the new standards.
Okay, I have another question. A resident at 520 College is saying that they're on sounds like a joint sanitary with their neighbor.
Yep,
And they will be made to separate those services, right?
okay.
Is
I know.
that correct? They will be required?
So joint sanitary laterals work on, city neighborhood services is, they're private plumbing. So city neighborhood services is the authority that is, driving the separation. So the way that works on these projects, and I gotta check if we're triggering all the boxes on this one, but what would happen normally if there is a joint lateral that is directly facing the project, we would place a lateral in the right-of-way for free for the residents to separate to. If we get to the joint connection, then we do separate them in the road for free. Some of that information is found when we televise them, because the records from, that we know, is just when the house was built in, say, 1920, there's a line on the bottom of the card, joint with this house. And so that's all the information we have, is that they're connected. So when we televise in the next few weeks with the contractor, we learn a lot more about exactly where that is and where that all falls out. So if you are joint, sit tight until we televise and reach out to myself at the BPW or City Neighborhood Services, and we'll walk you through what that process will look like a little more.
And I'm going to use this mic because I can talk better than I can type. This neighbor wonders why that was allowed to happen way back when. And is the correct answer, we didn't always have sanitary sewer on the avenues?
Sometimes some of it was location of the, where sanitary sewers were at. Some of it is just, changes in plumbing code. It's private plumbing again. Plumbing code has allowed a lot of things that have changed. For example, we just don't do galvanized steel water services. I know venting sizes have changed on homes, and a lot of stuff that they've learned weren't good practices back in the day. I think a lot of the decision-making that I understood it at the time was there was a available connection for those houses to get into, and they didn't have to cross a busy road or dig into a brand-new road in 1924. And so that sometimes even had to do with both houses being built by the same builder. A lot of reasons, but like some things, wise decisions were not always made, and we're left holding the bucket.
I have another resident asking about package delivery. I'm assuming that's going to be like mail,
Yes.
or everything will be
Yes.
hunky-dory as
Um,
normal?
So if you are an avid Amazon subscriber, don't worry about it, nothing changes. They pull right up to the road closed sign and run down the street with your package. So your mail service, package delivery, none of that changes for the residents. The delivery services have to accommodate the project. If you do start having problems, let us know, because it is very rare, but we have seen some folks have problems, and we have to step in a little bit and make sure that things happen correctly.
I'm trying to anticipate next questions on here. So like the person who has the joint sanitary, the BPW is going to provide each home with their own lateral.
So there's one lateral on the ground. We provide a second lateral. So then there would be two laterals,
Okay,
one for each home. So one home would stay on the existing, one connects to the new lateral, and then therefore they are separated.
will that lateral be brought into their property, or will it still be located in the right-of-way, and they have to hire a contractor then, of course, to connect
So,
that?
this is where folks get lucky or not lucky. If their existing lateral comes out to the right-of-way, to the public space we're allowed to operate in, and then becomes joint before it crosses the road, which we see a lot of them that they made that connection like right behind the curb. If that is the case, you get lucky and I get to it, we separate it during the project. If you're unlucky and it like connects in your neighbor's basement, that becomes much more difficult. And we can only go as far as the right-of-way line, or kind of like back a sidewalk area. So we bring the lateral up to there, and the resident has to do the work on their private property.
So a person being totally naive to this,
Mhm.
would this just be sprung on them at the moment?
My understanding is the city neighborhood services, the city plumbing inspectors and stuff, they have started reaching out to folks. So if you have not received a letter at this point from the city about that, and we'll check when we're done. You're safe at this point. You should be separate. So,
I have a question, I think probably for Eric. So,
Hang on a sec.
I think it might be now. Pressure's on. So, I'm a little bit surprised not to see any bump outs or anything like that since the whole street's being reconstructed. You know, we've got a busy park there with a playground, a lot of kids running back and forth. There's a school a block away that my kids walk to and from every day. This neighborhood, we also have kids who are walking over to Holland East and even to the high school. We're not within the envelope where busing is permitted. So, you know, average speeds on the street are pretty reasonable. I know that they're, you know, below the threshold that you're looking at. But we see a lot of outliers, enough outliers that it makes it pretty dangerous. We had a truck totaled when somebody was drunk and was going 70 miles an hour down the street. And I would like to see no one be able to get to 70 miles an hour down the street. So could you talk a little bit about that, how that decision was made, and maybe how we can adjust that?
Yeah, and when we're talking about bump outs, we're talking like sidewalk ramps, right? Where it kind of bottlenecks where you got a sidewalk crossing. Yeah, I think when we did this plan set, more or less the intention was to keep what we have out there the way it is. It's hard to consider, I know you've mentioned that the speeds are below or at what we'd expect them to be. That is something I did look at today. They are. Some roads are set at 25, 30 miles an hour, and that's pretty much the 85th percentile. It's 83, 84, or 23, 24, 26 miles an hour. It is the outliers that if they are causing problems, that's who's doing it. I would, in my experience, granted somewhat limited, I'd struggle to say that putting bump outs in is going to stop the outliers. It's something we can look at if there's an application or two. You know, I think you mentioned the park. That would probably be a good candidate, if anywhere. But I think the intention with the project was not to change the geometry. And anytime we start changing geography, plow truck drivers don't like it. You know, I understand from the pedestrian safety standpoint, and I don't want to rule it out. It's something we could look at. But I think typically what we can do, and I kind of planned on doing it, whether or not I think it is in the project, is putting the continental style crosswalk striping in, which I know doesn't sound like much, but it is the wider 1 foot by whatever width the sidewalk is striping that you see across the road. It stands out better. And as part of that, we can put in more pedestrian crossing signs. And I know that probably, again, not all that satisfactory. It's not going to stop a 70 mile an hour truck with a drunk driver in it from going down the road. But they are the easier, I think, I don't want to say as effective, but I don't want to say that putting bump outs isn't all that effective either. But it's something, knowing that, is that the location, the park, and is there one other location where we could look at?
Yeah, and maybe I can email you and we can
Uh-huh.
talk about what might make sense.
Yeah, I think it would help if you could email a more specific site, because another thing too, is we do look at crash reports when we do these type of projects. On this job, we look at the last 5 years, we look for a pattern of crashes. Again, you're not gonna get your outliers, we're not, because it's just, again, we're not gonna stop them. But when we look at crash data, a lot of it was 14th, 15th, 16th Street intersections where you get turning movements, stop signs in one direction. It wasn't, these type of accidents, but it doesn't mean they don't happen. They do happen. They're just farther and in between. But yeah, if you want to, connect with one of us and we can take a look at potential solutions. But again, I hesitate because I just don't know how effective they will be at the end.
Yeah, that would be helpful, especially since you're redoing the curve.
Mhm.
What we see kind of tends to happen is that it's not so much about the crashes that happen, it's just that the kids don't walk to school. So we live a block from our kids' school,
Uh-huh.
and we have people all around us who will drive that one block because it's not safe for their kids to get to the school. And that's a real
Okay.
safety concern that they're having.
If it's one block, I'm more comfortable trying to address one block. It's the catch-all, and this isn't the case here, but it's the catch-all, cars go too fast down my street, that's hard to fix. I'd be happy to hear it if it's one block, if we could try to see if there is, we can look into it a little bit more. Do we have anything else?
Not yet.
Okay, anybody here with any, and one more thing I will say is as we get closer to the project, before the contractor shows up on site, we put postcards out, probably like you've already received for this meeting. We do postcards try to put construction information on there, just to give you a heads up. We're pretty active, a lot of times putting like the dynamic message signs out, the signs on the trailer that say, hey, starting Monday, this is gonna be closed from here to here, use detour. All the detour will be signed, it should be signed. You should see signs start to go out ahead of the work, and then they'll get picked up, they'll get put up, they'll get laid in somebody's lawn, and then they'll get picked up, and the detour should be set when they start the job. And that's one of those things, again, if you ever see any issue with detour traffic or cars doing what you think cars shouldn't be doing on the road, talk to me. Yeah, we got a question?
Yeah, could you talk again about scheduling? And I know you said bids were gonna be open tomorrow.
Yes, bids are tomorrow. Our intention is to start the project hopefully mid to late April. As soon as we can turn a bid around, yeah, get a bid, it's good, and we can get them out on site. And then it goes from mid-late April, hopefully, through, I think the end date's end of August, it's the last week of August.
And when you say end date in August, that's final paving, everything's complete?
Yes. Yep,
So
Yep.
actual pipe work on site might be, actual physical pipe work on site might be a bit shorter, and the kind of restoration flows through for that. So the pipe work might last through July, and then there's a few weeks of paving and grading and everything kind of starting to really look normal again.
You said that you were going to cluster the 14th to 19th and then the 20th to 24th. Will the 14th to 19th construction also affect the water shut-off for, say, one area versus the other being worked on?
So the question is, how does project phasing affect water shutoffs? Water shutoffs tend to happen on a block-by-block basis, because the contractor tends to build about 1,000 feet of water main, and then we build it, and tie it into the system and work things over. So it's usually about a 1 to 2 block radius that water shutdown happens. And so residents they'll get the rhythm where it's like, okay, we're shutting you down to get started, and then they'll see a couple shutdowns and we tie you in, and then they're not affected anymore because they're now on the new main. So that water shutdown, it happens real quick over a span of like a week or two when we're on the block in front of each house. Okay, any other questions? No more, I'm not seeing any more questions at this point, so.
Nobody else? I believe that concludes our meeting then. We are, again, available for contact if you leave here today and have come up with a question on your way home. Happy to hear them and do our best to answer them.
I'd like to add, if anybody has any questions, they can email me too at t.glover, Glover, @cityofholland.com. I'll be setting up an email list, so if you want to get more frequent notices, you can send me your email address, and I'll create a group list that we can send those notices to. Once the contract is bid out and the contract is awarded, I will have all that information about who to call for what on the city website as well.